Hey y'all, this is a simple video meant to demonstrate how to use branches in GitHub effectively. Demonstrate a little bit of how they interact. So to do that, we're going to create just a simple little repository here in my own personal GitHub page, and I'll provide a link to it so you can see the commit history and everything like that and play around with it if you want. We're going to create a little repository, just very basic, nothing in it except for this README, just so it's not completely empty. So now we're going to want to clone it onto our local machine. If you've used GitHub at all before, this should be pretty familiar to you. So now we're in. We see we have that README, just like we'd expect, so that's great. And we'll just do a quick review of the add, commit, push cycle for GitHub. So we'll throw in a new file, call it master file. See, that shows up like we would hope. We'll add it to our repository, commit it, and push it. And as soon as that's complete, we should see it up here. Now has that master file like we would expect it to. So that's great. Alright, so let's now talk about branches. We can look at all the branches that we have with this git branch -a command. The -a stands for all, so this lets us look at all of the branches that we have available to us. So we see that we have right here in green our local branch called master. It has an asterisk next to it to show us that we're on this master branch locally. And then we have these two in red remote branches, which seems odd because it's a basic repository. We haven't done anything, so why are there two? And the reason for that is because this origin head points to origin master. This is telling us what our default branch is, so that when you clone it, this is what you'll get. And you can set that manually to whichever branch you want. Most people just stick with master because that's a standard, but yeah. And so to create a new branch, we use this git checkout -b development. The -b tells it to build a new branch instead of going to an existing one. So if we look at our branches, we see that we now have two here. We have master and development now has a star next to it that shows us that we're on that branch. No change to the remote repositories, we'll get to that eventually. And so, cool. If we make a new file here, see that shows up like we'd expect. But if we switch back to the master repository using git checkout master without the -b flag, we see that we still have this develop file. And the reason for that is because we haven't actually added this develop file to any of the branches. So we'll switch back to development and we'll git add, git commit, file. Now we see we have that here, but if we switch back to master, it's gone. Not gone permanently, it's still on the development branch. But we see if we look in here, like even in the file explorer, if we switch back to the development branch, our develop file pops back up. So that's really cool, actually. It feels a little bit like black magic, but I promise it's all fine. So let's try to push this develop file up to our remote repository. So if we type in git push, we get this error. And that's because, if you remember, while we do have a master and a development local branch, we only have a master remote branch. We don't have a development remote branch. That's because this repository essentially doesn't know that this branch exists, because it only exists locally. So to fix that, we just type in this command that they suggest to us. GitHub is actually pretty smart in a lot of ways. A lot of times it will just give you the solution to your problem. Alright, cool. Now we see some changes up here. We can look at our branch right here. It says we're on the master branch, if that makes sense. And then now we have a new branch, the develop branch. And we see that in the development branch, it now has this develop file. So great. That's exactly what we would hope to see. Now if you want to catch master up to our development branch, we have a couple options. So we can come in here and do git merge development, and that will do it, but we can also do it up here with this. So if we can set up a new pull request to try and pull development into master. Both work, both are fine. This way is looks nicer and it's a bit easier to navigate. The other way is a bit faster. So it doesn't really matter. But now we've merged that in and we push the changes to master on up. And we see that master and development are now identical. It says this branch is even with master. So, for the purposes of our demo, unfortunately, we want development to be ahead of our master branch to mirror a real-life scenario. So, we're going to go over to development and make a new file and add it and commit it and push it. And now development is once again ahead of master. That's great. So what do we want to do, or what do we need to do, if we're pulling in branches that are already existing and we want to work with different branches? If I wasn't the creator of this and it didn't already exist on my machine, what would I do? Well, that's a great question. So to test that, to demonstrate that, we're going to make it to pull it into another location on this computer. That does exactly the same thing as pulling it onto a different computer. It all works identically. And we're going to clone our thing in again. So we see here we have the develop file and the master file, but we don't have this new file that's on the development branch. And the reason for that is we are still on the master branch. We can see that. Do this branch -a. We see that it has the development remote branch and the remote master branch, but locally we only have the master branch. The development branch does not exist on our machine right now. So how do we access the development branch? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Just do git checkout development, and now we have it. And we can switch around between them exactly like we would hope to. It's pretty convenient, pretty nice. This allows you to separate your master repository from your development repository and make experimental changes that don't break it for other people, which is very useful. So I hope that this demo gave you an idea of how to use branches and what they're good for, how to work with them. If you have any further questions or you'd like to play around with it yourself, feel free to ask me. But other than that, I think we're good. So until next time, thanks for watching.